Hello, everyone. Are you there? Okay. Can we continue? Oh, nice. Okay. Let me turn off. Can you see my slide? Hello. Can you see my slide? Okay. Nice. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's continue to discuss the paper. I will focus on climate risk and the financial markets, values versus values perspective. It was done by the same author. However, this contain additional information beside this survey. Okay, so the paper discusses the differences across the investor and manager motivation for considering sustainable finance, value versus values motivation, and how these differences contributed to understanding about environmental, social, and governance investor approaches. The finance research community has the ability and the responsibility to help clear up this misunderstanding through additional research. So you guys have a lot of topic can be done in the future following this direction. And in the first beginning, what's the differences between value versus values? Value means we purchase stock, ESG portfolio actually focus on the financial return and the risk mitigation. In a given risk, we are seeking for the return maximum. In a given return, we are seeking for the risk minimum. So this is the value-based approach. So you have different behavior. So if you find the behavior is different, like ESG integration for lower tier risk, and this probably belong to the strategy or the motivation belong to value basis. By contrast, when you focus on ethical, social, and morals, that's another level. Some of them are invisible. You cannot see, but you can measure at the end of the period. So this belong to values. So values like a system, like an ethical um, norm, point of view, and social and moral goals. So different behavior can be observed from you're divesting to something or you have a negative screaming because it is not what you want. So actually the key questions are our ESG decision is driven by a value creation or values expressions. Both of them are totally different. If you focus on value, you might focus on the return and short-term target. If you focus on your motivation is from the values, you may help clean up and help greener the planet because your motivation like decision are from the moral and the ethical standard. So this is the quite different motivation. And continue for the second paper. there have some keywords. The larger keywords means the frequency is higher. So in that paper, we can find like climate engagement, investor engagement, institutional investor, right? And their respondent, and the climate change, and the risk of financial targets, and many others. If you are a university, you are institutional investor too, but passive, not active, and many kind of risk, and many others. Okay, so this can remind you that you, when you read a paper, you should focus on the keywords and follow the string and thinking about the paper back and forth, because this is the highlight of the paper. And the paper here have some research questions. The first one is, what drives an investor ESG decision? Is value or ethic? Values, because both of them may contradict to each other. And how do this motivation differ across retail and institutional investor, and also across different countries? And are corporate ESG action sincere response to stakeholder pressure? Are they really do that, or strategic greenwashing only? And the full question they have to answer: do ESG investment enhance return? Is from value motive or reduce opportunity set? If you do that, you are from the values motive. So both of them are different. And how do national norm and policy shape ESG orientation? So we can see a lot of data later from European country relative to North America, especially American. So the motivation, this paper was written very well. I just want to mention that if you have some dimension like climate change, the first paragraph you have to mention this. This is quite important. So one paragraph described about climate change, because this is related to financial market and some security return. So the second paragraph, you can talking about stock or bond markets, particularly like a green bonds or climate-related risk bonds, or corporate earnings conference, and so on. Whether these factors was pricing in stock price and bond price. You can take a look at that in the second paragraph. And the third paragraph can describe about the shareholder engagement. They can vote, they can divest, they can engage, they can adjust the portfolio to make the firm have some pressure to comply with the standard of ESG. So motivation, the last paragraph, the paper saying what they have done and what they have found. Okay, so this is the motivation. Very straightforward, however, very neat and very highlight. Everyone should know how to write a good motivation in your paper. And there have some key hypotheses. Actually, this was done by me. I have some hypothesis for them, because some papers and some tables, some graphing actually examine all of this. Is value-based ESG have outperformed or showing outperformance compared to others? Or values-based ESG outperform others? You can compare which one is valid. If firm with financial motivation ESG integration, whether they accept a lower downside risk and a higher return, whether this is valid. Or otherwise, values-driven funds could accept a lower return for ethical satisfaction. So either hypothesis 1 is whole, or otherwise hypothesis 2 was whole for different institutional investor. So this is a very important key in the first beginning. And hypothesis 3, actually the paper compare cultural norm. They say that cultural norm may shape ESG orientation. So some countries have stronger ESG orientation because of the cultural and the social norm, social scrutiny, pressure from the society. So this is another hypothesis 3. And the last hypothesis is the managerial incentive reflect investor composition. They have a different investor composition. So this is the last one. And they find out the survey 25 to 45 invest actually for ethical reasons. This is a relative high. If they issue or invest in ESG portfolio, it's not for the value basis target. It's for the values or the ethical reasons. So only 7% expect ESG would outperform those non-ESG portfolio. So actually ESG portfolio not guarantee have higher return, but they do that. And culture differences, they find that European lead in ESG, and this result has a strong correlation with Yale Environmental Performances Index. So this is done by Yale University, and they find the correlation relatively high. And ESG performances results are mixed. They conclude because of combining something value and the values. So both driven the fund's decision. So people have to decompose it to tell which actually dominate the decision making. So there have some challenging disentangling motivation or heterogeneity across investor and asset classes. So some conclusion, I hope that you can remember like 1 or 2 of them, because we will continue to some graphing and table. And this paper actually find ESG is multi-dimensional. Investor and managers act under different motivation. So does ESG create value? Depending on the separate value from values perspective. If you create value, that means this money basis performance outcome the values perspective. So depending on which one is stronger, if a value suppress the values, then ESG may create value, or otherwise it probably not. So future research can distinguish both of them from outcome metrics and expand into climate risk and biodiversity finance and many others. Finance must address both economic efficiency, like a value, and the ethical preference, like values. Okay, so this is the paper. And I think the paper, the second paper, have very good contribution. They distinguish precautionary and non-precautionary motive in empirical design and compare cross-country cultural and institutional influences and separate value versus values dichotomy as a framework for sustainable finance. So when you confusion ESG, why positive or negative, all people doing different results, or some papers showing a mixed results, there have something behind. That's value versus values. So this paper actually contributes and answers a lot of doubts for researchers or academia practitioners and so on. So something we can discuss later. So you can take a look at that and we can discuss later. But before that, I want to show you values versus value. Traditional investing, we focus on value. So make money and make profit, maximize your rate of return and minimize your risk. This is traditional investing. But socialized responsible investing here is values. So meet the social requirement and the norm and morality. So this is a social responsible investing. So there are some overlap. So this is the ESG values we can see here, and we can see traditional and ESG investing is in between. So in between, depending on the overlaption area. So when it overlaps, that's ESG values, and this is ESG value. Can you understand that? Because this belongs to this circle. So if you invest in here, actually you will prefer traditional investing. And this belongs to this circle. So if you invest in here, actually you are investing values. Here you invest in value. And in between is a mixed decision, is ESG investing. So this is the values versus value. So traditional, we focus on this. And now we request you have ESG values. And when you invest in ESG investing, actually something will worry and we prefer traditional return. And actually, very small portion are really morality investing. Something just in between. This is a percentage in between. So take a look at the further. We separate into different approach from investor preference. So the same step. So this is increasing. If you from the right hand, increasing to the right hand, your investor preference was focused on traditional investing value. Going down to the left-hand side, here is the impact investing, intentional focus on ES, and so on. So in between, there have social responsible and classical investing, ESG investing, depending on the percentage. If you really care about the return, the value, you will choose us or make decision like classical ESG investing, or you're pretty much aligned with traditional investing. If your morality or regulation or norm or investor preference is much aligned with in impact investing, then your decision making will much more aligned with intentional investing on environmental or social outcome. So they have different decision making based on investor preference. Here have the same results. So this paper also showing that increasing interest in ESG according to Google Trend. So they find that from, this is a time period, 2013 to 2023, 10 years. Over the sample period, you can see Google Trend. Corporate social responsibility have the very standard Google Trend. However, did you see the broad line? Broad lines, this is broad lines is environmental, social, corporate governance trend is significant and dramatically positively increasing after 2019, 2020. And social responsible investing, it keep slightly ascending basis on the ESG investing. So what have you learned from this trend? Can someone answer me? This is a social responsibility only. This is a social responsible investing only. And this blue line is corporate social responsibility. What's the differences among these three? What have you learned? Can anyone answer that? Li Chiyu. When you see the increase in bold line, Yeah, so this is a E and a S and a G, right? Blue line. So this is a ESG, Google Trend. So we not only concerned about the social responsible investing, we actually care about the E, S, and G, three dimension investing is from the Google Trend. Okay. And then the same thing happened. Active institutional investor, like a mutual fund manager, their portfolio related to ESG score. X assets we can find the time period, right? And the Y axis we can find is the mutual fund ownership. Okay, so mutual fund ownership, the score, G score, social score. And this is the environmental score. This is the ESG score. And this is other adjusted ESG score. So here you can see that. What have you found? Active mutual fund ownership is increasing with the increasing ESG score. So higher ESG score will lead to higher portions of ownership in the portfolio from mutual fund. So positively related to each other. If you have a higher ESG score, the ownership held by mutual fund will be increasing too. So higher ESG attract more ownership from mutual fund, no matter what. ESG or ESG in total, right? So what does it mean? Does the firms have to change and seeking for ESG when they find that the portfolio ownership may be changing based on your ESG performances? So would the firm may change their decision based on these results? Can anyone? Impatient. Hello? Are you there? 李晨燕. So yes, right? So firm might change their decision to meet ESG standard because the pressure from mutual fund active managers are really, really powerful. Higher ESG may lead to higher ownership from the mutual fund portfolio that might encourage a firm to change their decision making to make better ESG performances. So this is the result. And here, from different geographic differences, asset manager. So you can see the European is yellow and America is blue. Who can explain? Compare with panel A. This asset manager of non-ESG mutual fund by region. Non-ESG mutual fund, we can see the large portion was held by US. And here is the non-ESG ETF. The large portion is blue, held by US too. An ESG mutual fund, the large portion was held by Europe. So both big region have diverse behavior. So what's happening? Take a look at the countries. Average company environmental score. We can see America. Here is environmental only. Actually, America have a very lower score. Even though their GDP is quite high, however, they are not matching with the ESG standard compared to like the highest is of Finland, France, Italy, UK, Spain. You might be wondering, South Africa is much higher too, regional, and this is Norway. So most of them belong to European country. Only one exception is from the Singapore. Singapore is an Asian country. However, their environmental score is quite high. And another Asian country is Malaysia. But I'm not highlight Malaysia because I have to check what's happening to the data too. So this is a very different regions difference. And social and the governance score, we can see social have the same pattern. Singapore much better, and this is European country, and American have a lower social score too. By contrast, the governance score, American have much better performances. They have independent directors, and they have very good corporate governance, perform very well in corporate standard. Singapore have a very good corporate governance too. And this is not necessarily have to be some country, but most of them belong to European country too. So quite large difference between America and European country. And here you can see this is the country, and the higher score is much greener. If you see the greener area, that will be higher ESG region. Or otherwise, brown means pollution. Or otherwise, it's quite pollute. Also, this is quite pollute. And South America and some Africa. But this area is European country, much greener, right? This is America, but this is Canada. Canada is much greener too. Yeah, it's a Greenland is this one. I'm not quite sure this. Yeah, but this have a different performances to see the region, the country, and individual norm. So here is another graphic from the paper, you can see the orange dots, right? This is a high social and environmental score. And this is Yale Environmental Performances Index, highly correlated. So if you cannot find like this data, actually you can use like a Yale Environmental Performances Index, because both of them are highly correlated to each other. And this index is free. So you can use this to proxy for the firms or the country's ESG data. So we can see the orange dots. Most of them higher ESG and higher index located in European country. And this is a lower ESG score and lower index is around this country. And in the middle here is the distribution for your references. So from this direction, which means that all these countries have different culture and norm, because they are very consistent in every dimension. So table 1 showing the correlation across companies' ESG score. Okay, so here is the data from Sustainalytics. This is quantitative data, not survey data. So paper 1 was survey data, but paper 2 here is quantitative data. Here you can see that actually not very high correlation among these three, right? High social doesn't guarantee high environmental, because there are only 0.5 correlation and 0.4 correlation, 0.4 correlation too. So high social doesn't guarantee high governance too. Their correlation among these three are not very high. And here is from the Standard Poor Global Score 2013 to 2017. Here, the data is much better compared to Sustainalytics. We can see that because a different vendor issue different survey and collect different dimension of ESG items. So their algorithms are totally different to generate different ESG score. So if you use one vendor's score, you have to use one vendor's score from the beginning to the end. Don't change to another one, because you can see they have different standard to measure the ESG outcome. So here from the Standard Poor Global Score, here we can see it's much related. Usually you have a higher environmental, and actually your social score will be higher too. Highly correlation. And here we can see it's much higher, right? It's approaching 2.7. So using this vendor's data would be probably much more accurate compared to it's totally like a low correlation. And then the other one is an enhancement from the most recent data, another 4 years. So it's also very stable, highly correlated. So usually high environmental might improve your governance score or improve your social score too. Because they probably just ignore the ethical standard rather than searching for the monetary basis target. So this, if this is a values norms and affect your decision making, and your definition should be more consistent. So, okay, so here I have some questions. Can you guys scan the QR code and let me know whether you can tell who is passive, who is active? This is a multiple choices. Are typically passive. Here, I want you to answer the passive rather than the active. Could be a multiple choices. Do you know the passive means? Another like a sovereign wealth fund. This could be like a 国家主权基金, something like that. It probably not so active, I guess, but not sure. But you can have your answers. Okay, and then let's take a look at passive. Hedge fund is active, right? Private equity, of course, is active. Mutual fund, pension fund, yeah, probably most of them are passive. But mutual fund, let's take a look at mutual fund. Actually, mutual fund have something in between, but most of the mutual fund are very active. Also, my answers are C, D, passive. So go back to C, you're right. But another one is D, passive. Mutual funds sometimes we categorize them into like active. Okay. Okay, so can you answer those questions too? This is related to the questions I just asked you guys earlier. How can an institutional investor affect a firm's decision making? to be more sustainable? Multiple choice. Okay. So you guys' answers are like engagement and dialogue with management. Yeah, that's a very direct, right? And voting is very direct too. Yeah, voting. Divesting, right? I don't invest you. I withdraw my funds. Is also a kind of penalty. Yeah. See, and do means offering better financing. If you are bank, right, or non-bank, or financial institutional intermediation, you can do that, right, with stronger sustainability performances. So institutional investor, you can say they have a diversity channel to affect a firm's decision making. So here, let me see the results. The correct answer will include all of them. Okay, so another one could be an open questions. So before doing that, before doing that, can you answer that like a one sentence, very short, quick answer? Did you guys type? Because I did not see the answer yet. Okay. So far we have a very equally weight. Um, full vote for hedge fund. Yeah. And full vote for pension fund and mutual fund. And depending on the corporate strategy, short term and long term, you can see the result. Uh, some uh, depending on the investing horizon, right? Yeah, so many of you mentioned this. Some mentioned risk strategy. We have 4, and some say mutual fund is quite influential among this. And 4 of you say pension fund and sovereign wealth fund and hedge fund. Okay, so 5 say to the hedge fund, and most influential. We have some people here. Okay, very nice. You guys actually catch the right direction. If it's for me, I would say that hedge fund too. This is my first priority because they are just very aggressive, short-term profit, and very quickly in and out. And finally, my choice is mutual fund and pension fund. Actually, pension fund have public pension fund and the private pension fund. Public pension fund, we usually categorize them into a little conservative behavior, but private pension fund will be more aggressive. So both integrate together. Pension fund, because the public pension fund is much larger, so if you generally say pension fund, you might say quite conservative on average. But if this is a private pension fund, the result might be different. So very good order from you guys. And then you guys also mentioned horizon, investment horizon, short term and long term. So this is also very important for active. So active usually focus on short term and the passive role. Institutional investor might consider holding it a longer time. Very good results in Georgia. Can see a lot. Okay, so I'll give you another discussion. However, we don't have too much time to discuss all of this, but you can keep them in mind to distinguish, the value motive and the values motive approaches when you explore this kind of issues on ESG investing. Many application can be used not just in ESG investing. Many others can be applied to value or values system. So there have a lot of example can be applied to in your daily life. So sometimes but you can use this framework, value motivated or values motivated approach to investigate other issues and diversity issues in your daily life. This is the second paper. And the first paper, actually, I can just let you to take a quick look at um, the content, the different type. This actually the different type of institutional investor. We can see like a hedge fund is very aggressive. Private equity, very aggressive. Bank, very passive. Sovereign wealth funds, very passive. And this university funds are very passive. They don't aggressively change the portfolio. And other than that, yeah, I already asked you. So the 4 answers will be included. Okay, so we will let you go when we go back to, I'll let you go when we go back to the final page. Did you guys have any questions or something complementary to this issue? We just need 1% say one thing to have a happy ending, and I will let you go. Any kind of any kind of conclusions are very welcome related to value and values. Just one sentence. One sentence. Yeah, that's a country difference. This is also the culture difference, norm difference. Yeah, very good conclusion about the region differences compared to America. European country actually perform much better in ESG investing. Very good conclusion. And thank you all for the participation and the presentation. And our class will end here. And thank you all. We'll see you next time.